If you thought the offseason craziness was finally going to slow down for a second, nah, not today. There's a behind-the-scenes move that changes how Justin Herbert can operate at the line of scrimmage. There's a quiet yes that keeps the backbone of this defense from getting ripped out. There's a big-name offensive idea being floated that comes with risk and reward in the same breath. And there's a conversation happening inside the building that could shape what next year even feels like. One of those days where you can sense the bolt before you see it. Lock in with me. Tap like, hit subscribe, and let's jump in. Which one of those teases has you the most uneasy right now? You know that moment when a team finally puts the stamp on something and you go, all right, it's actually happening. That's the vibe when the Chargers social team dropped that first snippet of Mike McDaniel walking into the building in powder blue and gold, getting walked through how the intro video is going to be shot. It's easy to brush it off as content. Don't. That kind of post is the organization speaking in neon. The offense has a new brain, and he's stepping into the role like it's work to be done. It lands even harder when McDaniel introduces himself in that clip. Not in a maybe tone, not in a people are saying tone. More like, yeah, this is what I'm here to do. After a week of the fan base asking, is this really real? That's the kind of moment that flips the switch. Because once a team owns the message, it sets the tempo for everything that comes next. All right, football now, not just vibes. For the first time since Kellen Moore, Chargers fans can be genuinely, unapologetically excited about the person calling plays for Herbert. McDaniel's whole deal is stacking advantages before the snap. Motion, formations that force defenses to show their hand, concepts that turn confusion into clean answers. Instead of living on Herbert pulling miracles on 3rd and long every Sunday, you're trying to give him clearer pictures, quicker decisions, and more chunk plays without needing the offensive line to be flawless on every single rep. But there's a pressure point we can't pretend isn't there. The next big step on offense is getting the right offensive line coach in place. If the scheme is changing, the line has to learn the language fast and speak it the same way. And the name being pushed hard as a priority is Dwayne Ledford, the former Falcons OL coach. Because nothing kills creativity quicker than protection cracking in 2 seconds and turning everything into scramble mode. And yeah, the second McDaniel walks through the door, everybody starts looking at Miami like, all right, who's coming with him? Pending Dolphins free agents are going to show up in every group chat, every timeline, every late-night debate. But the real question isn't who he knows. It's who fits what he wants to run with Herbert. Nail that, and you level up without losing who you are. Miss it, and you've just collected names and noise. Bolt fam, that wasn't just a post. That was a signal. And once the top of the pyramid gets locked in, you can feel the pressure shift everywhere else in the locker room. Because the next decision hits closer to the foundation. And speaking of foundations, what came right after showed the Chargers aren't just talking about building, they're rewarding the guys who make the whole thing hold together. While people were still digesting the new offensive brain, the front office hit another switch, one that doesn't always get the loudest national reaction, but it tells you exactly how a franchise thinks. Tart, 3-year extension. If your first response was a shrug like, cool, whatever, pause for a second, because the message underneath it is not quiet at all. Tart isn't the guy selling jerseys at the mall. He's not the headline magnet. He's the kind of player defensive staffs fight to keep on the field. Tone setter, enforcer, the guy doing the dirty work, owning his gap, and changing the mood of a unit without needing a speech. A lot of what Jesse Minter built over the last 2 seasons leaned on that kind of presence. And even with Minter now in Baltimore, the Chargers are basically telling you, the identity doesn't leave with the coordinator. And Tart's path is exactly the kind fans respect. Undrafted in 2020, bounced around, kept grinding. Then he lands in LA as a prove-it signing under Harbaugh and Joe Ortiz, and just produces. Played big next to Puna Ford, helped turn a doubted defense into a playoff unit in year 1 of a rebuild. Then Ford leaves, and people assume the interior is about to fall off a cliff. It didn't. Tart held the line, kept the standard, and became the voice you don't want staring at you across the line of scrimmage on Sunday. Even the grading backs it up. 36th out of 134 defensive tackles on PFF. But stats don't fully catch what he brings. They don't catch that moment when he slapped Travis Kelce on a global stage and basically sent the message, "You're not walking into our house comfortable." That's culture. That's edge. And that kind of edge spreads fast in a locker room. Now zoom out. Khalil Mack's situation is hanging over everything. Keenan Allen is on an expiring deal. Odafe Owe is headed toward free agency after arriving via trade and popping next to Tart. Otito Ogbonnia is on that list. Deshaun Hand is on that list. If you let everybody walk, you end up living in roster chaos forever. New faces, new chemistry problems, same old treadmill. Extending Tart right now is the Chargers telling you they're not repeating last year's mistake when Ford left. They're slowing the churn. They're building an actual core. And inside the building, that matters. Players talk. Players notice. When performance gets rewarded, it changes chemistry. It changes buy-in. But don't misread it. This was just the first part of the domino line. Because once you've got money to move and you've locked down key pieces, the next swing can land on the offense. And the name floating out there right now might split the fan base right down the middle. And this is where things get real interesting. Because when you look at the cap space the Chargers are projected to have, over $80 million, and you remember nearly 30 players are headed into some form of free agency, your mind starts racing. That's not just flexibility, that's leverage. And when a team has leverage, a louder name always finds its way into the conversation. Right now, that name is Brandon Aiyuk. The first reaction makes sense. The talent is obvious. When he's right, Aiyuk bends the field. Sharp routes, real separation, legit juice after the catch. And he can win without everything having to be schemed perfectly. But the whole package comes with a massive asterisk. He hasn't played since tearing his ACL, MCL, and meniscus in Week 7 of 2024. And then there's the off-field tension that got bad enough for the 49ers to void guaranteed money, and for John Lynch to basically say it's safe to assume he's played his last snap there. Here's the part that turns this into a real Chargers conversation. Mike McDaniel. Those two worked together early in Aiyuk's career when he was still developing. That's not nothing. Sometimes it's not money or a zip code that unlocks a player. It's roles, trust, and the right voice getting through. And if anybody knows how to tap into what Aiyuk does best, it's McDaniel. Now picture the fit on the field. Keenan Allen turning 34 in April on an expiring contract. Ladd McConkey bringing reliability and football IQ. Quentin Johnston still trying to turn potential into steady production. Trey Harris coming along as part of a deeper group. If Aiyuk is healthy, he becomes the kind of X factor that changes how defenses have to play you. You're not living and dying off one guy winning in the red zone. You're forcing matchups, forcing safety help, and creating space across the whole route tree. Financially, it lines up in a pretty specific way. There's no real reason for a team to give up draft capital for a big contract when the expectation is he could be released. So what you're really talking about is a short-term prove-it deal. Something like that 1-year, roughly $12 million number that's being thrown around. For the Chargers, that's a calculated swing. Not a long-term marriage, a 1-year bet. The real debate is the locker room side of it. Does Harbaugh sign off on that profile? Because talent without alignment gets loud fast. But if the locker room is strong, leadership is clear, and expectations are set immediately, that same risk can turn into one of the most rewarding moves of the whole offseason. So while the fan base argues about whether you even want to push that button, there's another quieter decision happening in the building that could shape the defense in a way people aren't talking about enough. Because while everyone's busy playing GM with the roster, the Chargers completed an interview with Dylan Rooney for the defensive coordinator spot. And if that name didn't make you sit up straight, that's exactly why it's worth paying attention to. Rooney comes straight out of the Harbaugh ecosystem. He joined in 2024 as a defensive assistant, worked behind the scenes, earned trust, and after a season where the defense finished 6th in the league in sacks, he was promoted to outside linebackers coach. No shortcut, no hype jump, step by step. That tells you how the building sees him. His background isn't the flashy NFL headline path. It's development heavy. Michigan from 2021 to 2023, working closely with the defensive line and edge rushers. Guys like Aiden Hutchinson don't become who they become by accident. There's detail work, fundamentals, discipline, hand usage, gap control. And that fits how Harbaugh thinks. Defense starts up front and survives on fundamentals. Before that, Ferris State. Smaller stage, more grind. Defensive line assistant, recruiting coordinator. That's where coaches learn how to actually teach, not just repeat terminology. That's where you learn how to connect. And connection matters when you're trying to lead a locker room full of pride, expectations, and pressure. This isn't about whether Rooney is the biggest name on the board. It's about direction. Do the Chargers want continuity, or do they want a full reset after Minter's departure? Bring in someone from outside and you might be starting over with language, rules, timing, everything. Interviewing Rooney says the Chargers are genuinely considering keeping what worked, then evolving it instead of blowing it up. Think about what that would mean. A defense that already knows the vocabulary, already understands the standard, already trusts the coaching points. Less time relearning, more time refining. With Tart locked in and other key decisions coming, that kind of continuity can speed up the path from good defense to reliably nasty defense. Doesn't mean he's the choice. It does mean the franchise is checking its own building before chasing the shiny option outside. And teams that do that tend to stay steadier over time. So when you stack it all together, an offense gaining identity, a defense protecting its core, a potential wideout swing that could raise the ceiling, and a coaching conversation that screams long-term thinking, it's hard not to feel like something different is getting built here. No guarantees, but there's a path. Now I want it from you straight. Which move has you the most excited, and which one has you the most worried? Make sure you hit like, subscribe to the channel, and get in the comments, because I already know the Bolt fam is about to argue this one all night.